Should you farm in MapleStory and should you invest in a VAC pet? A VAC pet only comes around a couple times a year. It costs around $70 US with a $10 upkeep every month, which can be a steep cost that turns off many players from the game. Most gamers already do not want to spend around that much on this current generation standalone games already. And honestly, I believe those games will probably get you a lot more value than an advantage mechanism in a free-to-play video game. Because think about what farming actually gets you. You get levels, but Mecha Berry and the Monster Park update that goes up to Talahart will also give you a ton of experience. Fragments. You can just use weeklies and events and still make a sufficient amount of progress. But even if you do farm and get about 20 an hour from farming, you basically do not lose nearly any efficiency to simply walk over to them with a free pet to loot them. Mesos, you get up to about 700 million an hour while farming. Have the potential to earn up to over 10 times as much per hour instead if you just boss, if you've developed a bunch of side characters over time. Even simple to make Enlomian mules can win over farming, and those are more than ready to go as soon as you finish your hyper burn to 260. Due to power creep, the gap between bossing and farming for Mesos will only continue to widen. Familiars. Okay, I'll give you that one. However, due to the randomness and high variance of familiars, you could just get lucky after enough Inkwell compensations and just end up with 3 boss familiars, as it takes around 280 uniques or so on median to roll all 3 of them. I wouldn't personally recommend getting them this way, given how random and infrequent Inkwell notes come around, but it is technically possible. Quote unquote, just get lucky, bro. But we can all agree that the current system is a pain in the ass already to deal with. And lastly, node stones. You can get quite a lot of them from just through events and hyperburns alone, allowing you to max out relatively easily already. Now, if you have tons of time to play this game per week, and I'm talking about hours that rivals a part-time or full-time job, like 20, 30, or even 40 plus hours per week, or if streaming MapleStory is your main source of income, Black Pets will gradually become more and more worth your time the more hours per week you play. And in that case, yes, I would recommend spend more time on your main and focus more on vertical progression. But however, on the other hand, if you only play for like 2 hours a day on average or less, which by the way is already quite a time investment, and what is usually the upper limit for what the vast majority of players in the game can stomach, I think instead working on developing horizontal progression and just only focusing on bossing, dailies, and weeklies are simply more effective per time spent, as it can take up to about that time to run all 180 of your boss crystals. With the future quality of life updates coming soon, including the new Star Force system coming out, which will likely demand a large amounts of mesos, as it may allow you to skip straight to 22 stars without booming. Work on farming only after you finished all 180 of your boss crystals and everything else for the week. One thing to note though is there are events that give you a VAC pet for 1 month for free, multiple times a year even. And when that happens, that is when I would more recommend using that time to farm. Your wallet will thank you. Personally, I do not support these predatory both high costing and FOMO practices from Nexon, especially the alternative deal that involves gambling real money for them. And I will be happy enough with any free VAC pets given throughout the year and have made a satisfactory amount of progress from focusing mostly on horizontal progression, at least in my perception. All of my 13 level 260 plus characters are almost all liberated and are netting me upwards to 60 to 70 billion mesos a week without even touching any $30 Genesis passes by just simply abusing the rental gear system, and will net me even more in the future as I continue to progress them, allowing me to complete my funding for my Legion champions and more easily afford to invest in the high cost of Eternals for my remaining pitched boss set, as well as allow me to push for 23 stars in double prime, all for just playing about 12 or so hours at the absolute maximum per week, every week. But who knows, maybe I'm the one out of touch. I'm a free-to-play solo progression account from Hyperion after all, and I can do almost 100,000 in Culvert and can solo Extreme Lotus without any of my Eternals yet equipped, just from the hours I've put in with this strategy, and will very soon gain a lot of power from putting on my Eternals, especially with the future 22-star No Booms update. I'm aware it's not endgame, but I do think it's a method I can recommend to many players. Anyway, let me know what you think.